She laughed at my hands. Not quietly, not behind my back. She laughed right in front of everyone. The photographer had just asked me to put my hand on her shoulder for the photo. Just my hand. That's all. And she pulled away. She pulled her shoulder back like my touch was something dirty. Like my hands were something she was embarrassed by. And then she said it. Loud enough for the bridesmaids to hear. Loud enough for my wife to freeze. Dad, your hands are too embarrassing. Don't touch me like that. You can walk me down the aisle. But after that, please stay away from the dress. And she laughed. She actually laughed. Like it was funny. Like it was a joke we all shared. But it wasn't funny. Not to me. Not to the man who had spent 30 years working with those hands. Not to the man who had built every piece of furniture in her childhood bedroom with those same hands she was now ashamed of. My name is Frank. I'm 57. And my hands have been with me since I was 15 years old. I started working in a wood shop. Not a fancy one. A real one. Sawdust in the air. Machines that could take a finger off if you weren't careful. I lost a small piece of my left thumb when I was 19. Just a small piece. But the scar never went away. This white, small, right at the edge of my nail. And my daughter, she used to touch that scar when she was little. She used to say it made me look like a superhero. She used to say my hands were the strongest hands in the world. And I believed her. Because when you're a father, you believe everything your daughter tells you. Even the things that turn out not to be true. She was getting married. My only daughter. The girl who used to fall asleep on my chest when she was 3. The girl who used to cry when I left for work and wouldn't stop until I came back. She was beautiful. I won't lie. She looked like her mother. The same eyes, the same smile, the same way of looking at you like she knew something you didn't. And when she asked me to walk her down the aisle, I said yes. Of course I said yes. I had been practicing in my head for 20 years. Not because I wanted attention. Not because I wanted to be seen. But because walking your daughter to the moment she starts her own life, that's not just a tradition. That's the last real job a father has. And I wanted to do it right. Even if my hands weren't pretty. Even if my shirt wasn't new. Even if everything about me was a little rough around the edges. The wedding was big. Too big if you ask me. 200 people. Flowers everywhere. A band that played songs I didn't recognize. And my daughter, she was perfect. The dress was white. Not just white. Bright white. The kind of white that makes everything else look a little darker. She walked around like she owned the sky. And when she came up to me before the ceremony, when she came up with that smile that used to light up my entire life, she didn't hug me. She didn't kiss my cheek. She just stood there. And she looked at my hands. She looked at them like she had never seen them before. Like they were strangers to her. And then she said it. The laugh came first. Small. Nervous. Like she was trying to make it sound like a joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was real. Dad, your hands, they're so rough. They're embarrassing. Don't touch the dress. Okay? Just stay close, but don't touch. And she walked away. She just walked away. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just ripped something out of my chest and left it bleeding on the floor. My wife saw it. She saw everything. She came up to me and she put her hand on my arm. Gently, like she was holding something that might break. And she whispered, "Frank, don't let it hurt you. She's nervous. She's not thinking clearly." But I wasn't thinking about whether she was nervous. I was thinking about the 30 years. The 30 years of working with my hands so she could have a dress like that. So she could have a wedding like that. So she could stand in a room full of people who had never worked a day with their hands and laugh at the man who had given her everything. And the worst part wasn't the laugh. It was the way nobody else reacted. The bridesmaids smiled. The photographer kept taking pictures. The groom, the man she was about to marry, he just looked at his phone. Like this was normal. Like laughing at your father's hands in front of 200 people was just part of the day. I walked her down the aisle anyway. I walked slowly. Not because I wanted to be seen, but because I needed every single step to count. Every step was a memory. Every step was an apology for having hands that worked too hard. Every step was a reminder that even when you're embarrassed by the people who made you, you still show up. You still do what you promised. You still walk them toward the life they think they want, even if they don't want you beside them when they get there. The ceremony was beautiful. I'll give her that. Beautiful music. Beautiful words. The kind of words people say when they think life is simple. When they think love is easy. When they think the people who raised them will always be there, no matter how they treat them. And I sat in the front row. I sat there with my rough hands in my lap. I sat there with my shirt that wasn't quite right. I sat there and I smiled. Because that's what fathers do. They smile. Even when it hurts. Even when they want to stand up and say something, anything, to remind the world that their hands built the very ground everyone was standing on. But I didn't say anything. I just sat. And I watched my daughter promise to love someone who couldn't even look up from his phone when she hurt me. The reception was long. Too long. Dancing. Toasts. Speeches about love and family and the importance of remembering where you came from. And I listened to all of it. I listened and I really thought about the irony. Because everyone was talking about family. Everyone was talking about roots. And nobody, not one person, looked at the man with the rough hands sitting in the front row. Nobody looked at the man who had worked 60 hours a week for 20 years so his daughter could stand there in white. Nobody saw me, except my wife. She held my hand the whole time. Her hand was soft. It always had been. And she squeezed it. Not hard. Just enough to remind me that I wasn't invisible. At least not to her. And then, late in the night, my daughter came over. She was a little drunk. Not badly. Just enough that her smile was loose and her guard was down. She came over with 2 glasses of champagne. She handed me one. And she said with that same laugh, "Dad, I'm sorry about earlier. I really am. I was just nervous. You understand, right?" And I looked at her. I really looked at her. And I said very quietly, "Yes, I understand." Because I did understand. I understood that she had become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who thought beauty was more important than love. Someone who thought a smooth hand was worth more than a hand that had held her through every fever, every nightmare, every bad day she had ever had. I understood that the girl I raised, the girl who used to say my scar made me a superhero, she had been replaced by someone who was embarrassed by the very thing that had made her life possible. And understanding that was the most painful thing of all. I went to bed that night in a hotel room. Not my bed. Not my home. A hotel bed with white sheets and a view of the parking lot. And I didn't sleep. Not really. I just lay there, with my rough hands on my chest, feeling my own heartbeat, feeling the weight of everything I had lost in one day. Not the wedding. The wedding was just a party. I lost something deeper. I lost the belief that my daughter saw me, really saw me, not the man with the rough hands, not the mechanic, not the embarrassment, the father, the man who had been there since the very first breath. And I realized, lying there in that hotel bed, that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who forget you first. Not because they're bad, not because they mean to, but because they're too busy looking at themselves in mirrors to see who's standing behind them, holding the light. The next morning, the morning after the wedding, I woke up early. I always wake up early. It's a habit you can't break when you've worked with your hands your whole life. And I went downstairs for breakfast. My wife was already there. She looked tired. She looked like she had been crying. And before I could ask why, before I could say anything, she handed me her phone. And there was a text message. From my daughter. From the bride. From the woman who had laughed at my hands less than 12 hours before. It said just 3 lines. "Dad, the wedding is off. I saw the way he looked at you. I heard what he said about you when you left. I can't marry someone who thinks I'm better than my own father. I'm coming home. I'm sorry. I love you." The wedding was off. Just like that. Not because of me. Not because I made a scene. Not because I said anything. Because my daughter, my real daughter, the one I had raised, the one I thought I had lost, She finally saw something she had been missing. She saw the truth. She saw that the man with rough hands was the only one who had never looked away from her. The only one who had never been embarrassed. The only one who had stayed. Even when she made him feel small. Even when she made him feel invisible. He stayed. I stayed. And in the end, that was enough. We didn't talk about it in big speeches. We didn't have a meeting. We just had breakfast. Just the three of us, my wife, my daughter, and me. And my daughter reached across the table. She reached with both hands. And she put her hands over mine. Not quickly. Not nervously. Just slowly. Like she was learning something new about them. Like she was seeing them for the first time in years. And she said, very quietly, very clearly, "These hands built everything I am. I'm sorry I ever forgot that." And I didn't cry. Not in front of her. But my wife saw it. She always sees it. And she squeezed my other hand. And I really knew, that some things can't be broken by a laugh. Some things can't be erased by embarrassment. Some things, the real things, they just wait. They wait for the right moment. They wait for the morning after. They wait for the truth to finally catch up with the people who tried to run away from it. The dress went back. The flowers went back. The cake, nobody ate the cake. But the toy truck, the small red one I had bought for my future grandchild, it stayed on my shelf. Because some things are worth keeping. Even when everything else falls apart. Especially then. And my hands, my rough, scarred, embarrassing hands, they built the shelf that holds that truck. They built the table where we had breakfast. They built the life that my daughter finally decided to come back to. And if anyone ever asks me what those hands are really for, I'll tell them. They're not for looking pretty. They're not for impressing people at weddings. They're for holding on. Even when everything else lets go. Even when the people you love laugh at you. Even when the world tells you that your worth is measured by how smooth your skin is. These hands, these rough, broken, beautiful hands, they're for holding on to what matters. And they never let go.